All right, guys, welcome to the Empowering Visions Challenge. I am super stoked that you are here because we're going to talk about some of my favorite topics. And really, the idea is to help you get to the next level of achievement in whatever it is that you're going after. So, I don't care if it is a small goal that you're like, this is just something I need to be able to do, or it is a huge vision and it's going to take a long time to get it done. I think that this framework that I'm going to walk you through this challenge, it's going to help you achieve that anything that you want to do. Basically, if you set and make the decision to do that, if you utilize this framework, it will really help you take that to the next level. So first off, my name's Lisa. For anybody that doesn't know me yet, I am an educator, an entrepreneur, an equestrian, and a wellness advocate. I'm also the founder of the Dark Horse Project, a media company empowering visions through collaboration and education, because today's community is tomorrow's world. And I think that that is a super important piece of the puzzle. And as you will see as I walk through this framework, that collaboration is a huge part of what makes all of this possible. And yeah, that's just a huge, massive topic that I love these days. And it has really proven to help me get to actually levels that I never even imagined possible. So I think that that's a super important piece of the puzzle. I want to also honor anybody that is watching this video that is live here, especially those that are live. And I know that there's going to be quite a few people that watch this either this week during the challenge or even after the challenge, because I think the content here is relevant no matter what. So no matter what time you're watching this, I really want to encourage you to look at what it is that is your vision, what it is that are your values, what are your passions, what it is that you're going after, and really utilize this framework that I'm going to teach over the next 5 days to help you get to that goal, vision, or dream. So I'm super stoked for anybody that is here. I'm so grateful you guys have made it, and I just cannot wait to see what you guys do this week that really helps you move the needle in whatever it is you're working to achieve. Now, there are a handful of people in this group that have been on a sprint with me. So I'm just going to give you a real quick. I operate in sprints and pauses, and that is one of the high performance habits. We'll talk about routine habits later, but that is one of the habits that I have found really helps me. So I operate in 90-day sprints when I'm looking at what I'm doing in my company, in my life, in my goals. I set 90 days, and then I have 30-day sprints between those. So this week is the last week of the sprint that I've been doing. Of this 90-day sprint. This weekend, we are going to celebrate with a party, and then also I'm going to take 30 days to regroup. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, but also know that part of what I am going to talk about this week will really help you wrap up this year and make a delineation, a mark in the sand of like, all right, I was able to accomplish these things. And even if you're just joining me for the first time and you're like, wait, I don't even a vision. Wait, what are we talking about? I don't have one. That is also okay. Just know that like I'm just wanting to open the gates of awareness to how much a vision can help you. So it doesn't matter if you are like a visionary and you are amazing at getting this done, or if you are just starting out and you're like, Lisa, I can't even like plan past next week. So I think that you have the opportunity to really take a lot of things away from this that will actually help you in your life. So for me, those are the most important pieces of this. I think the other things that I want to say before I really dive into this is, well, also, I think, yeah, one of the major things when we're talking about when we're going to go after this whole vision, dream, all of that, it's super important to know that it's only like if you're fully motivated, the chance of you actually taking action is only about 50% of the time. So what we're going to do in this framework and what this is going to do is it's actually going to help you with the science, like the research-backed psychology science of today, is really going to help you actually be able to take more action, which is really the super important piece of the puzzle. So I just want to make sure that you're engaged in that way and knowing that I'm going to give you tools along the way that are really going to help you take action and be able to look back at this last week of the sprint or the last couple of weeks of this year and go, okay, I was able to really wrap this piece up, and I am ready with momentum and clarity for what the next year brings. Because really, the other part and intention of this is to really get you guys aligned with your vision so that you can walk into next year being like, all right, let's do this. I've got a plan. I know what direction I'm headed. And I have actually some tools and resources and ways to make that happen. So that's really the intention. And before I get any deeper, what other pieces do I want to mention? I think that's pretty much where we are. All right, so I mentioned my name's Lisa and that I'm an entrepreneur. My story, which will help you understand a little bit of how I've gotten to where I am with this framework, is I've been an entrepreneur since I was, well, born. Since I arrived on this planet, I basically think a little bit outside the box, okay, maybe a lot outside the box, and I rarely fit within the confines of what normalcy is, which at first was hard and now is just a superpower. So I have always been a bit of a visionary. I have kind of always been able to see, and by being a visionary, I mean, I've always been able to visually see things. And I think that that is something that we're going to tap into that is a very important piece. And I think that most people actually can visualize. And the more that you hone your visualization skills, the more it's going to help you do this framework and to get clarity on what direction you're headed. So I think that's a super important piece of the puzzle. And I basically made it to, I had started a couple companies. I had a computer company, I had horse companies, I was buying and selling, I did all these things. And, you know, life got hard, and I had a few events in my life that really knocked me on my butt. And I was struggling for quite some time with my own self-worth. I had taken all of the things that had happened, and I had actually made my identity that I was a failure. And I remember being in the middle of the country, like struggling, being like to my sister, being like, there's something wrong with me. Like, I don't know how to make this happen. There's something wrong. And she was like, no, Lisa, there's nothing wrong with you. We will figure something out. And so at that point was basically when I ran into a book called The Motivation Manifesto. And it's written by Brendon Burchard. And that book is really a story about taking one's own agency back, taking one's own personal power back, and really to defining that vision for your life. And so that book was a huge game changer, and that was probably about 7 years ago. And since then, I've been on a deep dive into personal development, into achievement and goal setting and striving, and High Performance Habits, which is also a book by Brendon Burchard, which I'll mention at some point in time as well. So I think that those pieces of the puzzle really explain how I went from, I've always been the entrepreneur. However, I was really struggling, and how I took that really struggling, changed my perspective, got some tools, and really able to take a small idea and turn it into a very large vision, and to then get a group of people around that, which is benefiting and helping everybody within the group. So I think that that is basically my story, where I came from. I'm happy to elaborate on that at some point in time as well, because I'm glad to get to meet some of you guys who I have not met before. So that is, for me, that's super exciting. I love this part of this, of the whole going after visions, right? It's, I'll talk about it a little bit later, and I'm diverting a little bit, but it's really about looking at the role model mindset and really being able to share the things that you're learning. So I really hope that anything that you grab during this week, that you are then going to go share it with somebody else. You're going to help empower somebody else to take action, to go after their dream, to realize that they can have a vision. So, all right, that is my intentions. Now, the Empowering Visions framework. Basically, it has 4 main parts to it, and I will get you guys a PDF a little bit later. I am going to get a little bit better about slides one of these days soon, I have a feeling. However, at the moment, I'm still, you know, working the pieces out. So biggest thing is we've got 4 parts to this. And number 1 is vision. Being able to have that clarity on what it is that you're going after and why you're going after it. The second piece of this is your strategies. This is going to be like how you get this done. It's going to be the strategies of mindset, modeling, and momentum. And we're going to get a little bit deeper into that tomorrow. And just understanding that those are going to be the ways that are going to give you like the path to be able to achieve your goal, vision, or dream. And then we're going to talk about habits, because habits are, in fact, the secret sauce. As I have been coaching, as I have been an entrepreneur, as I do collaborations, I can tell you that the one thing that actually massively moves the needles and truly is the secret sauce, it's the habits. The habits that people are doing. It is the things that they, 50% of your daily actions are automatic habits, right? You just going through the motions, doing the habits. So we all have them. Now, the interesting piece is how many of them are intentional and are they actually getting you towards your vision? So really identifying those habits are super important. And I like to focus on 4 main types of habits. And those 4 main types of habits are routine habits. And we'll talk about my favorite one, which is a morning routine. They are realization habits, the things that help you actually realize, make this happen, skill up, or get you to the next level, realization habits. And then we're going to talk about reset habits, the things that like the pit stop that the high performance vehicle does in order to be able to run longer and faster for a longer period of time, right? So we're going to talk about those reset habits. And then we're going to talk about recalibration habits and how that is the other piece of the puzzle that I think is so underplayed when we're talking about going after a goal, vision, or dream. I think it is one of the things that, like, you'll have these, oh, set your vision, get your idea, do these things. And I think it's the ability to recalibrate as you're on that journey, because like when the plane takes off in LA to go to New York, it's going to hit wind, it's going to hit turbulence, there's going to be things that are going to make it need to recalibrate along the way. And I think that that is an important piece of the puzzle, especially when you're going after a goal, vision, or dream, right? There's going to be things that come in that you're going to need to utilize, and there's going to be things that show up on your journey that you're like, I didn't even know I had this option. So it's not a negative thing per se that shows up, while sometimes there might be obstacles that you're like, this sucks, I didn't plan for this. But at the same time, there are a lot of times, as long as you're open, there are opportunities that show up. So I really want to emphasize that piece of the puzzle. And then the fourth part of this framework is collaboration. And specifically, we're going to talk about collaboration in an accountability sense, in the idea of really connecting with other people that are striving for greatness, for whatever it is they're striving for, but really to be able to check in with them as you're going, as you're doing this, as you're making progress, right? So I will tell you that accountability groups that I had or I have, that I'm a part of, that I engage in, are the thing that have really made it possible for me to get to where I am, right? So if I didn't have them, it would be a whole nother, I don't even know where I'd be yet. So, so that's the main framework that we're going to talk through. This is the Empowering Visions Challenge, right? So vision is even in the title, and it's going to tell you probably why that's an important piece of the puzzle. And I'm also going to tell you right now that I'm going to tap into the idea of vision on a daily basis throughout this challenge, because it really is, you need to have a North Star. You got to know where you're going. And it's totally cool if it's just this week that you know where you're going, right? It's totally okay if you don't have, I know that I've started this coaching sometimes with people and they're like, wow, I wasn't even thinking vision. Like, I'm just trying to survive, right? I got firefighting, I gotta put out all those things, and I gotta deal with life. So if you haven't really tapped into your vision, that's totally perfect. That's totally fine. You are right where you're supposed to be. And the idea of really walking through the vision and this framework is really to help you cultivate and create and develop that vision. Now, the next thing I want to talk about vision before I get into that too much is it really is a journey, and it really is the development of, right? It's not it's not like something you go like, I got a vision, think it's done, and then you just go on and don't come back to that. Because what happens if you look at like what people do when they set New Year's resolutions, right? Like how many people actually do the New Year's resolution? Well, not that many, because they get excited and they actually look at what it is they want to do. They come up with a vision and they're like, think about it, and they've got this idea, and then January 1st comes around and they've done this, and they've maybe talked to their friends about what they're doing. You know, some people check in like, what are we doing? And then the second day of the year comes around, and they might, like, if they're, you know, a workout is the new, getting fit is the new thing, might make it to the gym a time or two, and then life's going to set in and it's going to get hard. And if you're not remembering the what and why you're doing something, if you don't actually have a vision that you're tapped into and you're not looking at that daily, the chances of you actually continuing to take action greatly diminish. So I think that is why I'm so passionate about vision, and know that it's that journey. So I think that it has taken time for me to cultivate vision, and some of the things I want to talk about today is how I've done that. And really the idea of taking that time, knowing it's a process, and being able to walk through developing your vision and understanding that, like, okay, today's vision, it might change a little, but it doesn't mean that's a time to stop, right? It's a time to pivot some. It's a time to reassess, like, am I walking in my vision? Am I doing the things that I really want to be doing? So when we're talking about the North Star, we really need to understand that we need, as humans, we need a compelling vision, right? We need to get up every day and be like, there is good things coming, and you're working towards it. One of the main drivers for humans is growth. And if you're not growing, they like to say you're dying, right? So it's kind of like, I'll relate this to horse training because I do that every once in a while. But if you're not training, you're untraining, right? So you always got to be aware, because those horses, if humans have the mirror neurons, horses, they watch us even better than people. So they really are aware of what's going on, and it's really important to have that awareness, and then be able to look at, as we're talking about a compelling future, really being able to tap into, like, yes, I know what direction I'm headed. Yes, I really have a great idea of this, and yes, tomorrow's going to be better. Yes, I'm growing, because, like I said, things get hard, and you're going to need that compelling future. You're going to need that understanding of why you're doing this to be able to get over those humps, bumps, and obstacles along the way. So another piece of when we're talking about that vision and really getting that clarity is to make sure that we're not jumping into the tyranny of how, right? And Tony Robbins talks about this a lot. And it's really making sure that we're not, you know, I've got this big vision. Okay, this is great. This is awesome. And then all of a sudden the brain goes, but how am I going to do this? I don't have that today. And instead of getting stuck in that piece of it, because that's a dream killer faster than anything, it really is important to cultivate that vision and really allow yourself to get back into that dream. Allow yourself to think about it in ways that are far beyond where you are today, and not looking at what your setting is, but really being able to tap into, like, what is that internal calling that is actually calling you forward, right? What is your purpose for being here? And I know that the good book talks a lot about how people perish for a lack of vision. And it really is based around that same idea. If you've got to have an idea of where you're going, you've got to be able to, like I mentioned a little bit ago, of like showing up and serving as that servant leader, right? As that role model, as that person that's like, okay, we're headed in this direction, let's go and let's do this. So I think, and when you're looking at high performers, that is really the thing that like pulls them forward. It's that looking at having the clarity of the vision. When you talk about high performance, vision is the number one high performance habit. Is high performers, and this was a study done over, I can't remember, I think it was like about 3 years, and they studied the top like 15% in multiple industries. And all of those people, they broke down what were the 6 main things that they did to achieve this high performance. And number one was high performers seek clarity more often, right? So when you're looking at your vision, it really is developing that clarity of what direction you're headed. And that way, you're basically going to be able to go, when all this outside information comes in, you're going to be able to like, this is where I'm headed. Does that information, is that relevant? Does it matter? Because that's one of the ways that we get distracted and pulled off of our visions is we're not clear enough on where we're going. So we have a hard time saying yes or no to the things that show up along the way. So now, when we talk about the why, there are a few exercises that have really helped me to get into the why. And I think the biggest thing that you really have to do is you have to have an emotional connection to it, right? So we are emotional beings, and you really have to have that desire, or it's gotta have that positiveness to it that is going to help you really tap into the why we're doing this. So really, when you've got that vision, when you can look and feel like know your outcome, you can look and feel what it's going to be like. Now, I got to also mention one thing about this vision part, and that is, as we're envisioning these things coming to pass, we also have to realize that it's not necessarily just the positive sides of this, because the reality is any big vision, anything you're going after is going to be hard, right? So you got to make sure that you're honoring that struggle of what's coming up. And a lot of times when they're working with, marathon runners and they're training to get the marathon done, it's, some people will be like, okay, imagine yourself going through the finish line and how amazing this is going to be. Okay, that's an important piece of the puzzle. And you also have to be looking at, okay, so what's going to happen mile, whatever, when your knees are about to blow out and you think you can't go another second, right? You can't take another step. What is it that you are going to say to yourself? How are you going to overcome? And that's part of the vision, right? Because if we're just being Pollyannish about the vision, then we're not aware of all the things that are coming into play, right? So when we're looking at the vision, anytime you come up upon an obstacle, we're also going to envision how we're going to get around that and what we're going to do. And that's where a lot of the tools I'm going to talk this week about are going to really dive into that piece of the puzzle. So when we're talking about why, we really, like I said, is emotional connection. We got to make sure that we have congruency, that it is really aligned with your values. And I think a lot of people don't spend enough time really making sure that they know what their values are. And there's a lot of different ways to go about this. I would say one tool that I love is from Dean Graziosi, teaches it all the time, and it's called 7 Levels Deep. And I will try and find a link to that and put it in some of the resources. But really what it talks about that is he'll say, okay, so why do we want to do this? Like when you're asking yourself the questions, like, why is this so important? A lot of times people are like, well, I want to help my family, or I want to make an impact. But if it's not like so deep emotionally connected that you are either on the verge of tears or that you are seriously moved, then you don't know that why hard enough, right? So it's really going 7 levels deep. And he had learned this from a guy that had coached him and had come in and said, like, why did you hire me to do this? And he was like, well, because I want to improve my company. Like, no, Dean, like, get deeper. And he talks about how the more he thought about it, the deeper he went, okay, so I don't want, and he had grown up in some poverty and he had really struggled. And he had said, I want my kids to have a choice. I don't really want, I want to have that control, right? So we got deeper into the actual like why. And so for me, my why is empowerment, and it is very much related to what I was saying before as to my story and how hard I struggled. And it's like, okay, I was totally struggling, and there are tons of tools that make it so you don't have to struggle so hard. So my thing about really empowering others is getting that deepness into like really helping others get there and be able to overcome those obstacles. So Number one tool that I'm mentioning is the 7 levels deep, and I'll make sure to get you guys some resources on that as well. Oh, awesome. Actually, Lana's got that in the chat. Lana's awesome. I love it. All right. So my second thing on really getting your values and really getting an understanding of like what it is that's driving you is this book, The Passion Test. I will also make sure that you guys get this in the resources. It is by Janet Bray Atwood and Chris Atwood. This book was also recommended by Brendan Bouchard in one of the things I think it was one of the courses I took of his. And I'm going to tell you that this book has really helped me. It really walks through a process of developing what your like passion statements are. And I did this a couple years ago with this book, and I will tell you they ring so true still today that I use them every week. I look at them all the time. They're on a board right here next to me. And yeah, I found a lot of value in this book, especially when going after that vision, really going towards your vision. I think one other piece of this, before I end today's session, I should say, is two things actually. One is when you're looking at this vision and you've got this feeling, it's starting to be able to cultivate the feeling of belief and really being able to believe that vision. So you've got to stay there long enough. I know some people say, well, the universe doesn't give me the things I want. And sometimes people say, well, maybe the universe doesn't know what it is that you really want because you're not very clear on it, and you don't stay on that one thing long enough for anybody to believe you, including yourself. So I think that piece is really important when we're cultivating this vision, right? And it's really starting to cultivate that feeling of belief and knowing that it's possible. Knowing, for me, I'm a believer, so I believe that my creator is also helping me do the things that are on my heart. And if that's not your way of going, I totally understand. And I think that it's then believing in your ability to figure things out, right? Your ability to go after those goals, visions, and dreams. And so a great book on that, actually, that I also have here. Another great book that I thought for believing, and that is actually The Magic of Believing by Claude M. Bristol. And this is a book that Tony Robbins recommends and actually says that it was a book that changed his life. And it's one of those things that'll really help you when you're working on vision. It'll really help you clarify what that vision is and then how to actually implement it. So this will talk a little bit about the habits that we'll talk about this week, but that's more specifically towards the vision. And one last piece, and I'm going to share with, because as I mentioned, I started the Dark Horse Project, and I know that you guys will get a link to join the Dark Horse Project if you haven't already gotten on it. And I hope that you will join the group for this challenge and really interact with everybody. And that idea of the vision from the project, it started as some little ideas of me putting together my passions. And one of the things that really helped me on the clarity and really helped me with my vision is a book called Vivid Vision by Cameron Herold. I don't have the physical copy here to show you, but that book is another one that I recommend, especially if you're working on something that's a bit of a bigger vision, or you're going like 3 years out and you're really looking at like trying to blow away the like limiting thought process that you currently have, and really being able to get out of looking around where you are right now and being able to really set that vision. And so that book, once again, is Vivid Vision by Cameron Herold. And I'm going to give you guys a link in the resources for this so that you can look at the vivid vision of the Dark Horse Project, because you can see how that it's basically a PDF that really talks like 3 years out and gives you like a very big, like they talk about big hairy ass goals, BHAGs, I think they're called, really having those like pushing the needle or pushing the comfort zone a little bit. And so I felt that that is been super helpful for me in building the Dark Horse project itself. So, all right, so to wrap for today, the biggest thing about vision is getting clarity on it, to understanding what it is that you want to do and why you want to do it. The second thing that I'm going to say is I'm going to have a call to action every day of this challenge. And the call to action today is to put a welcome post in the Empowering Visions Challenge group. I will have a link for you guys in an email. There will be a link below this video if you're watching it afterwards. And really being able to jump in and post who you are, where you're at, and then utilizing the little bit of homework, which I have a PDF for that. It's on the landing pages of this. And that is going to say, what is 3 to 5 things that you are grateful for? And the reason why I want to talk about the gratitude side is that is one way to really help you change your state whenever you're coming up against things that are a struggle, right? To really tap into what are you grateful for really helps you in identifying that vision, in changing your state of mind, and being able to really cultivate that vision. So getting in gratitude is what we're going to start with. So I want to know on your call to action, I want to know who you are, where you are, 3 to 5 things you're grateful for, and 1 to 2 goals that you have for next year. And you can just get started thinking on what we're doing for next year. Because once again, what we're doing this week is we're going to wrap up this year. We're going to make sure that we have a really good intention for the last few weeks that we've got going. And then we're going to really set intention for next year. So the gratitude, what are 3 to 5 things you're grateful for this year is actually even a little bit more specific to that framework. And what is it that you want to work on and make it, I could be 1 big goal and 1 small goal that you're looking to do. So I hope to see you guys in that, and looking forward to seeing you guys all tomorrow when we talk about strategy and how we're actually going to get this done. And it's going to give you a few more resources on also, I mean, we will of course tap back into vision, because vision is the important piece of the puzzle. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and maybe answer some questions that might have come up about developing your own vision. And yeah, we're going to talk about that tomorrow. So looking forward to seeing you guys there. I'm going to start the recording